You have no idea the amount of ignorant mess we're about to get into right now.
Sit your $5 ass down before I make you.
Hello and welcome to a brand new preview episode for Black on Black Cinema. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Micah.
Hey.
All right, guys, we're back. This is a preview episode for episode 150. It's a milestone episode for us. 3 the Hard Way. So this, of course, is the 1974 action Blaxploitation classic. We're getting back into our old black movie bag. It's film starring Fred Williamson, Jim Brown, and Jim Kelly as 3 badasses who join forces to fight the white man from poisoning black people's water supply, which is completely fictional and not a real story. So look forward to that. Terrence is out this preview episode, but he will be back next week. He does not know that this movie is being picked, but I have a feeling that he will be more than okay with it.
Yeah, I think he'll be more than okay with it, considering the list of movies that we were throwing around earlier.
Oh, if you guys could see our private conversations.
Yeah, buddy. Look, if you look, Jay and I have settled on a Tyler Perry movie, by the way. So there's only one holdout, and he ain't here right now. So if he don't agree to it, we ain't doing it.
That's right. And it is a doozy. It's so good it'll make you throw your kids out a window. So if you have any personal influence over Terrence, anybody listening out there on any coast that has a personal influence over Terrence, if you could please talk him into doing it, that would be awesome. Anybody out there. All right. So unfortunately the topic, the random topic this week has to do with a real tragedy, actually, with the untimely death of rapper Nipsey Hussle, who was gunned down in front of one of his stores that he owns. So I don't necessarily want to just dwell on that, although that is a tragic story. But I wanted to concentrate on what happened after his death and how we as a community handled it. Because I started to notice something that I thought was a little bewildering. And it went from bewildering to me understanding it in a certain way. So I wanted to talk about that. So when the news kind of broke across the internet that Nipsey had died, there was a number of conspiracy theories that started popping up that this was a government hit because he was like trying to improve on his community, and because he had like started all these businesses and employed all these black folks and done a lot of really positive things. Then there was a conspiracy that he was working on a documentary about Dr. Sebi, who is this black vegan. I just as a side note, Dr. Sebi is not a doctor. So we can just call him, Sebi's not his name either. Like, I think it's like Anthony or whatever the fuck. Like, but he claimed back in the 80s that he could cure AIDS and HIV, with his fancy vegan diet. And for some reason people believe that. Spoiler alert, it's not true. And I'm not interested in debating it. It's not true. And I think it's reckless to tell people shit like that. So anyway, Nipsey was working on this documentary supposedly, and that's why people are saying he was killed. Look, the conspiracy thing side of it is what it is, right? I think it's silly. But I do think that there is a larger conversation to be had, which is about how we deal with grief and how we deal with loss. Because this seems to keep popping up every time as these conspiracy theories, like when Michael Jackson died or when Prince died. You know, like we seem to gravitate, some of us in our community, I would argue a lot of us, which is a real problem, gravitate towards these conspiracy theories. And I've been trying to debate sort of in my head as to why that's happening. So, Michael, what are your thoughts on this whole thing?
Well, I mean, it's all, I mean, I hate to boil everything down to slavery, but it kind of is, right? Like, some traumatic shit happened to our people, and it is kind of in us. It is ingrained in us. And slaves were fed essentially that version of a conspiracy theory when they were told that, you know, you have to be slaves because the Bible said so.
Right.
And, you know, I look, I'm talking out of my ass, but I feel like that's like the genesis of a lot of this. And it's human nature, right? Like, that's why religion is so prevalent as it is, because people have a hard time trying to cope.
Right.
You know, from what I understand, JFK was a great man. And people can't cope with the loss of someone like that. Like, it must have been it had to be a government hit. Like, it's just the way the mind works, right? Like, they can't accept loss. And part of that, I think, is that, you know, we need to not necessarily grow up. That's not the word that's probably the phrase I would use, but not the phrase I mean. I think it's more of like, we need to talk to people like professionals. Like, we need to start going to therapy and learning how to deal, learning how to cope, because we don't do that. And
Right.
Look, quite frankly, the conspiracy thing it's the easy way out. It's the simple way out. You don't have to think about it. You could just blame someone else, or something that you have no control over, or the government did it. And, you know, the government didn't, you know, I have no control over that. It must be the government, because the government's always trying to get us. They've been trying to get us from the beginning. Like, it's all, I don't know, man, but yeah, we need to talk more. We need to open up, not be so rigid and so hard, you know.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think you're hitting on sort of my view of it as well, which is like, there's something called epigenetics, right? Which is literally the idea of things that happen to you that are above your genes, right? That are passed down, right? Generationally. And I think, it's not that I think, it is a scientifically researched thing, that trauma is passed epigenetically, right? So the trauma of your ancestors can be compounded over time, that gets passed to you. So in the genetics of modern Black Americans, we literally have trauma of our ancestors being brought here as slaves and generationally being slaves, and the children of the freed people dealing with Jim Crow and the brutality of that era, and then the brutality of the civil rights movement, and then the brutality of the 70s and 80s with, you know, drug
Crack
culture,
and
right. All of that is all compounded, right? And that happens for everyone. It's just that our story has been so brutal for so long that I think it exposes itself even further. Like, it's more obvious, I should say. And then you're talking about like gang violence and things like that exist today. So when it comes to this whole thing, when it comes to dealing with loss, I think that we as a community have seen so much loss so early that are largely preventable things. And then we can't, at a certain point, our brains are like, enough. Like, we cannot deal with any more of this, whether it is from the diets that we have created for ourselves based on a diet that was given to us, right? Like, we have adapted over time to like make it better. But like, we still eat pretty terribly, like, as a community. We do. I mean, look, it is what it is. Like, I'm trying to eat, you know, like, I'm not a vegan, because I don't believe it cures cancer, but, like, I'm not a vegan or anything, or a vegetarian, but like, I try to eat better. Like, I try to eat more fruits and vegetables and shit. Not because a fictional doctor told me to, but because a real one did. But, you know, like that idea of trying to better ourselves, I think is important. But I do think we are terrified of dealing with loss for real. And I think, look, I'm not a Nipsey Hussle like mega fan, right? The only song I know that he was on was "Fuck Donald Trump," which I used to open our political podcast this week because it's great. like that's the only song I know by him. But I do recognize in his death, I recognize something from our generation, which is like Biggie and Tupac being killed, right? And those were traumatic moments for us. Like it just was. But in the same fashion, people leap to conspiracies. Oh, Tupac is still alive and the police did this and maybe they did or maybe they didn't. But like, we have to at a certain point go, maybe this guy was killed. By the way, they've caught the guy who killed Nipsey Hussle.
You know what his name is?
Yeah, I know. It's Eric Holder, which does not help our argument at all. That the government was not involved. Like, when that came out, I was like, yo, come on, yo. Oh my God, they sent the former attorney general to kill him? That's crazy. That seems really blatant. No, but like this guy was from around there and people knew him, right? And he was just like kind of a fucked up dude. And like they got into some sort of like verbal altercation or whatever. And he came back and shot him. Like it's as simple as that. It's Occam's razor. The simplest answer is likely the right one, which is he was just some dude. Like he was just kind of a shitty guy who didn't value life, and he killed this guy. Sadly, it happens every day, but because Nipsey Hussle is a name that people know, this feels bigger. It feels more traumatic. And that being said, that doesn't mean that if he wasn't famous, it wouldn't be traumatic. We just wouldn't know about it, likely. But I do think there's something to be said about dealing with loss, something to be said about dealing with depression and, mental health issues. I know everybody says mental health these days is like the new hot buzzword, but I think knowing black kids who have seen family members killed in front of them, have found family members dead for whatever reason, whether it's like a mom or a dad or something, or the loss of their parents in jail or to drugs or something like that. Those are really traumatic things. And I think over time, we have a really hard time figuring out, even as adults, how to deal with that loss. So like you said, the easiest answer is to go, well, this mythical conspiracy is what took him. Because the hard truth is somebody who looks like us killed this guy who was one of us. And that seems fucked up and wrong. And I don't know how to deal with that. So let me concoct this conspiracy that a guy who told you to eat better, his documentary is the reason Nipsey is dead. That's silly to me. And it doesn't do anybody any good to argue those things. It also doesn't do anything good for who Nipsey was. Like you're basically just disregarding that guy's life and the tragedy that ended it for some fucking bullshit you'd watch on Netflix any day of the week. It's just silly to me.
Yeah, because you found out that he was in the process of doing it. Like there's so many mental leaps that you have to make to get to this. Like it's not. That's what I'm amazed at. And it. Like I get it, man. I really do. This is the brain trying to protect itself, and people don't want to be told that, sometimes you just don't have control over the things that happen in your life.
Right.
Sometimes you don't, man.
You just don't. Look, bad things happen to bad people, and unfortunately, bad things happen to good people too.
Yeah, man. It's like, not like I had a brother, and he died in '86, and I still carry that with me.
Sure. And
now that I have a son who looks exactly like him, like I'll show you a picture of
really?
His own. He looks exactly like him, and I'm freaking out, man. And the only memories that I have of my brother aren't good ones. I was 5. And the only memory I have 2 memories. One, when he was in his little walker And I'm walking away from him and he's following me and I'm mad because he's following me. And I asked my mom, I was like, well, tell him to stop following me. Right. And my mom was like, he's just following you because he's big, you're his big brother. And the second memory I have is the day he died. Right. And I can't, so now I got my son, right? And he looks, it's not even funny. Like he looks exactly like him.
That's amazing because that means your wife and your brother look exactly the same. Because the picture of your wife as a baby is ridiculously
right. And I worry about that stuff, man.
Of course.
Like
but
worry
that's
about that.
that's trauma that you're holding on to.
Right.
Makes sense.
And it took me a while to just kind of realize, this is where my crisis with faith came in, right? Because my 5-year-old brain couldn't process that, everyone says, well, God called him. God called, no, it wasn't. It wasn't God. It was meningitis and pneumonia. Right. And it took me a long time to kind of get over that. And religion is something that is, not to sound insulting, but it's the biggest conspiracy theory, right? Like it's the biggest thing that people go to when they, and look, I'm a religious guy, man, but I'm also a straight shooter and I try to be
respected on all sides.
Right. And it's not healthy, man. Like I understand.
You're saying avoidance, basically.
Yeah. Like it's not healthy. Whether you use religion or whether you use conspiracy theories in a way that is a little more traditional, so to speak, or whether you listen to InfoWars, like that's where you get your news from. Like that stuff's not healthy, man.
Yeah. If the guy you're getting your news from is trying to get out of a court case because of his quote psychosis, maybe these are not the people to listen to. I'm just saying.
Right. And I don't want people to think that, because this is the culture that we live in now, where if you say that, if you explain this one thing, then, well, you that means you don't believe in anything else. Like, I'm not saying that you can't be skeptical, right?
You should be skeptical of things.
Right. But
it's healthy skepticism.
Right. There's a type of skepticism that you have to use. You have to use your judgment. You have to, and all this comes from like life experiences, right? Like there are certain things that I just, because I don't have certain life experiences, but you need life experiences to be able to hone your mind, man. And that comes with travel. That comes with getting away, getting outside of your comfort zone and, entering ideas that, taking in ideas and just kind of letting them sit with you for a minute before you just shut them out totally. Right.
Yeah.
And I see now as if I'm some, super old man. I'm an old man, but I'm not a super old man. But I see now that, colleges are boycotting people with different opinions and like, come on, man, like that's college. Dangerous. Like that's the whole point of college.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a battleground of ideas.
Yeah, man.
Even shitty ones.
Even terrible ones. Like you got to hear people out.
Yeah. But I guess people could make the argument that I didn't hear them out about Dr. Sebi again.
No, but I would argue that you did.
No, because I heard of this guy for years. I was like, that doesn't make sense. Also, right. look, just a little rant. I need people to understand what peer-reviewed science is. If Dr. Sebi's information is out there, there's nothing stopping any organization, including inside the federal government, because apparently I think people think that science is like only handled at the government level, and there's no other science. Like the way people talk, that is clear that people are very ignorant of that. But if it's if his information is out there, and seems to be, right, any scientist could pick up that information using his documentation. It should be well documented, right? Because he's a doctor, and do the things that he did. The only thing that would stop them from doing that is if he's doing something that is unethical. And you could be like, well, the government thinks everything's unethical. That's not true. Okay, that's not true. Right. Giving people fruits and vegetables is not in the realm of unethical. It's not even close. So they could pick those things up, and then they could publish to a medical or scientific journal. This is how science works. Then other scientists can look at that and be like, I think that's bullshit. I don't believe you. Or, wow, I think your idea was really dope. I do believe you. And then they take that information and then they recreate it. And if they can verify it, then other scientists peer review it, and they do it over and over and over again. Spoiler alert. Everybody thinks like there are all these scientific facts. They're not called facts. They're called theories. You know what's a scientific theory that has a lot of documentation on it? Gravity.
Right.
Yeah. Because people challenge it. And they're like, I don't think this is the case. And then people challenge it and they go, yeah, you're probably right. It's a theory. It is a working theory because science is constantly evolving. So this idea that this guy could cure AIDS or HIV is bullshit. And it's bullshit because if it was so fucking easy, everyone's like, the government doesn't want to cure cancer. Really? You sure about that? You sure about that? Because they have 10,000 plus people who work at the National Cancer Institute in Bethesda, Maryland. You think they wouldn't like to take the billions of dollars that they spend on that and use that money to blow brown people up around the world? I guarantee you they would. They would much rather spend the money on that. I know that because I work at the National Institute of Health. Spoiler alert. Now, I know that for a fact. So I know what kind of budgets we have. So if they could figure it out, they would do it.
You think
people are so fucking gullible about shit like that, and it's because they don't know. It's okay to just say you don't know.
The way that the pharmaceutical industry is set up, are you trying to tell me that they wouldn't immediately give out, like, they start selling like small doses to, like, it just, like, stuff like that doesn't pass the smell test, yo.
And that's what healthy skepticism is. Right. That's where you should go, does that make any sense? Because, pharmaceutical companies would be like, well, we was going to grind up some kale and put it in a pill and give it to these motherfuckers. Right. And then let it go. No, they don't. You know how many people die of cancer every year? They die, okay? Cancer kills people of all walks of life. Rich, poor, black, white, it doesn't matter. It is unrelenting. Also, hey, a guy who came up with one fix for cancer, spoiler alert, there are hundreds of different types of cancer. Hundreds. Right. So the idea that you can cure it with a fruit smoothie is ridiculous.
Right. You're not going to cure breast cancer with a beet.
Right.
You know
like, that's not how it works, dude. That's not how it works.
Like stuff like that really irks me, man, because my mother has multiple sclerosis, right? And
I remember a story you told me about that shit.
I was with her one day at the Baltimore Farmers Market. And all you local people know what I'm talking about, right? There's a vendor there, and I think he calls it the best fish on the planet, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right.
And he looks just like you think he would look, right? Like he's this old school dude, looks like a hobo, got the dread like cap on and stuff like that. And he's an old man. He saw my mother walking with a cane. You know, she's got MS, and MS is it damages the nervous system. It affects you in different ways, but it's a nervous system disease. And there's no cure for it. Like, it just isn't. Right. And this motherfucker handed my mother a card and said, "You got MS, don't you? Here, you need to get yourself some of this alkaline water." And I wanted to knock that motherfucker's head off, man. And my mother, thankfully, because sometimes I worry about my mother. Thankfully, she was like, "Oh no, I'm good. No, I'm good."
Fuck out of here.
Yeah, right. But like, I've seen it in action.
Yeah.
And to think that a bottle of water is gonna cure multiple sclerosis.
Also,
what the fuck?
Also, here's another thing: drinking alkaline water and only drinking alkaline water is not good for you. It's not. It's not. You know how I know? Because I talked to a scientist who actually fucking studied the shit. No, it doesn't have certain minerals that regular water has. No, do not drink only alkaline water. Your body will have fucking horrible reactions. Again, read a fucking book. Read a book. Talk to somebody who knows some shit. Don't get your water from a fish nigga at a goddamn flea market. Fuck out of here. Shit doesn't make any sense. Stupid.
But like, you know, like shit doesn't pass the smell test. Like that's all you really need to kind of bullshit your way through life. You got to be able to know what, like things got to pass your smell test. And you got to like hone that shit.
Yeah, you got to have one.
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, well, you can't be like 1966 Robin solving a Riddler puzzle and just jump from leap to leap to leap. Oh, Nipsey Hussle was killed by the government because he may have been trying to produce a movie about a witch doctor at some point. And the killer's name is Eric Holder. Okay. All right, buddy. And they just pinned it on this black guy who just happened to be named Eric Holder because the real Eric Holder. Like, all right, yo. All right.
It's like,
just calm down.
Like,
yo.
where is your jump to conclusions map from Office Space? Fucking relax. But that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand. I truly do. Like,
Yeah,
I started the week off being really annoyed by this whole thing. Like, this is pissing me off. Like, stop saying this dumb shit. To really understanding, like, it's because we don't know how to deal with loss. And I get that. Like, look, my grandmother died earlier, late in 2018. So, like, earlier in the last 365 days. And, like, it will almost be, I guess, maybe about 6 or 7 months. It's been almost about 6 or 7 months. And like, I realize I haven't even dealt with that. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but like, and I like to think that I'm a pretty reasonable guy. Like, I don't have a problem with talking about mental health. I've been to a therapist before, in the past for something else. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm not like, yeah, I'm so tough and perfect or whatever. Like, I'm not like that. I am deeply flawed. Yeah. You've listened to the show, people. Come on. Do I sound like a normal person? Get out of here. But even I haven't dealt with that. So I can't imagine what happens when you have sort of these collective moments in a community, right? Because we're not all going to therapists. We're not all seeing Nipsey's death as a marker for maybe our own mortality, right? Where maybe, I mean, Nipsey Hussle was 33, I believe. Someone was like, Jesus died at 33. I was like, relax. just calm down. Just take it easy. That's insane. Don't even go down that road. That's ridiculous.
Please.
Jesus could never make a song as good as Fuck Donald Trump. Knock it off. He was way too nice. But, this idea that collectively we are experiencing this. And like collectively, our generation experienced two of the biggest rappers at the time being killed. Like collectively we deal with this, but individually we don't deal with it. And that's a problem. And then during that sort of collective dealing with the situation, you have people throwing in these like random ideas because they don't know how to deal with loss. Like all these people who are pushing all this conspiracy theory stuff, take a listen to the other things that they don't deal with and how they always see a conspiracy in all of it, but they never want to deal with their own stuff. If you see that, and spoiler alert, you probably will, know that that's a marker for somebody who's not dealing with their own shit, that they're pushing out because that's easier. It's much easier to push out information than it is to pull inward or to look inward, right? That's way harder. And that's for anybody. That's not for, me saying that about everybody else. I'm saying that for me as well. So I think the Nipsey Hussle thing is a canary in the coal mine, so to speak, for the Black community. I think we have to start addressing our own hurt, our own pain, generational pain. I mean, the last couple of years with the president we have, I was talking to my sister-in-law and she was asking me like, what is it like right now? Like for you, like she's a white woman. She's like, she's fine. I mean, she's not pleased politically, but like she's fine, right? And she was like, what is it like for you? I'm like, it's exhausting.
And at the same time, she's got her own issues to battle.
Yeah, she's a woman.
Being a woman.
Yeah.
So, you know.
So, I mean, but I was 100% honest. It's exhausting. And if it's exhausting for me, it's exhausting for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, I ain't no fucking special case here. So, those things, and then compounded with the loss of people that you admired or people that you liked, or just realizing that it can happen to you, like it could possibly happen to you, is really fucking scary. And so we have to acknowledge that and not fall so easily for these, what I would refer to as distractions.
Yeah.
Any other final words on this?
No, not really. Just, you know, you got to talk to people, man.
Yeah.
Like, don't be so hard that, you know, you can't ask for help or you know, just don't, ain't no shame in it, right. You know.
No, there is.
Quite frankly, people can see when you're fronting and when something's going on, and no, I'm all right. And people can see that and they want to help, but they don't know how to help because you ain't saying nothing.
Right.
So,
and look, just as a last note, especially black men, we don't talk.
Yeah, yo.
We don't.
like for real, yo. You don't. Yeah.
And I get why we don't. We got to keep that fucking exterior on, because the world is not kind to us. And, you know, that's not to diminish what goes on with black women. Not trying to say that. I'm just saying, I'm speaking uniquely from my own perspective.
Right.
It's hard for us because we are told that we have to be super tough. We have to not allow any space for what is perceived as weakness.
Right.
But it's not weakness.
That's why these, not, never mind, because I was getting ready to go on another rant about young people and millennials. Not even, but like, it's not their fault. But
Generation Z.
Anyway, but yeah, talk to people, man.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that is it for us on this topic. I thought it was a very good conversation. We will be back next week to talk about 3 the Hard Way. I'm very excited. You've never seen this movie, yes? Is that correct?
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I've never sat down to watch the whole thing.
Yeah, me either. At the beginning, obviously we're all going to watch this separately before we come together to review it. We're going to need to pick. We need to pick which one of the hard ways each of us is.
I'm calling Jim Kelly right now because I want to be Jim Kelly.
I want to be Jim Kelly. Everyone wants to be Jim Kelly. No, I'm saying that we are going to have to look at the personalities and the actions of these people, and we have to determine which. Basically, we will determine who the other 2 people are.
All right.
I'm calling Jim Brown is definitely Terrence because he seems the angriest.
Yeah. I mean, that's a given.
At a minimum, he might just be all 3. All right, that's it for us, and we will see you guys next week.
See ya.
Bye. You're watching the Black on Black Cinema YouTube channel. Make sure you check out our full reviews of black movies, past and present, and every other week we do a preview episode where we talk about a random topic that affects the black community.